Cool. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the innovation panel. Really excited about this one because, I think with everything going on at the moment, this is probably, to me anyway, the most important, one of the most important panels because, we're all sitting at home, we're all trying to work out what we can do next, and how we can move the needle because at the end of the day, the business, especially in the, in the live side we're talking about, it's going to come back. We feel confident of that. People will come back to shows. They love going to shows. But I think it's important that we all learn about all the different types of platforms, all the different type of tech out there, that we really get a sense of what is useful and potentially open up new revenue streams for artists, because it is going to be a new normal out there, and there's so many different opportunities. So I think, as important as it is as an agent to kind of look at, the different deals that we do, things to know things about production and all that. I think it's very important that we know about the different types of technology. So I'm really glad that we have an amazing panel of people that will be able to, I think, give us a lot of value. There's a lot of parts to some of the things that they do that I even don't know. So I'm definitely learning at this point as well. And the whole idea is I think we want to come out of this COVID-19 feeling as best equipped as we can to move forward. That is the most important thing. This is a pause, a forced pause, and we have to get smarter and innovate and move forward. So I'm going to start by introducing our panelists. They're going to give you a little bit of background on each of them, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go into some discussion on some of the cool things we've seen, some of the cool live streams, and and also how each one of their technologies work. And then we'll go into Q&A at the end. So probably towards the last 20 minutes, we'll do some Q&A. So who wants to go first? Prajit, you wanna introduce yourself and where you work?
Sure. Well, hello everyone. My name is Prajit. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Looped. We all know that superfans are the economic engines for most artists, and keeping superfans active and engaged is a top priority for many artists and their teams, and creating unique, differentiated, and exciting experiences for them is a really important part of, aspect of managing your fan base. However, as I'm sure we've all seen, especially in the live music space, this is becoming very challenging during a global pandemic, in an increasingly crowded social media and live streaming space, where it's becoming harder and harder to stand out. So basically what we do at Looped is we build unique ways for artists and hosts to do virtual experiences, live streams, and virtual VIP meet and greets for their superfans.
Got it. Thank you, man. Thank you. Amy?
Hello, I'm Amy, Managing Director of the UK at DICE. We're a global ticketing and discovery platform, and started about 5 years ago to combat the pain points of ticketing. And then 2 months ago, kind of after a lot of skepticism, in all honesty, tiptoed into streaming, where we have seen 2,500 shows come through our platform, and the quality is getting progressively better and stronger. And we're working with global artists, which is fantastic. So we don't know what the future looks like, but we're very confident that streaming is going to play a really important role in the future of the live business, but also the the artist cycle. So we're very excited and here to learn as well all the time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Amy. And I think that's really important. We're that's probably gonna be one of the points that we discuss in a bit as well, is the attitudes towards paid streams. And I'm really interested to hear about that. Sheri, want to say hi?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Sheri Bryant. I'm president of Sansar, a virtual live events platform. We're based here in San Francisco. We've been around for about 5 years now, most of that in closed beta. We came out of Linden Lab, the creators of Second Life, and sort of took the best of Second Life and added VR magic. And we are now focused on the music live events industry and putting on concerts. I'm sure we'll talk more about it later, but UGC, or user-generated content, is a big part of what we offer. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, and that's really interesting too. I was saying before this started as well that there's so much specifically about Sansar that I don't know. So I'm really excited to hear that. Ben, how are you?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having me. My name is Ben Samuels. I'm the GM of North America for MelodyVR. We were founded on the vision of bringing live music experiences to fans at home and giving fans the best possible way to experience a live show, regardless of how much money they may have or where they live or how old they are. We've been in business for a few years now, and we've become the only licensed VR platform in the world, and we've built what is now the largest catalog of exclusive, immersive, interactive music experiences.
Cool, thank you. Yeah. And last but not least, Tommas, how's it going?
Hi everyone, I am Tommas Arnby. I am the founder and CEO of Locomotion Entertainment, which is a management company, record label and publishing company based in London and New York. And we obviously were one of the, we specialize in artist development, and from discovery to international rollout, and from the zero to something. And one of the many companies that were hit with this gigantic pause and disruption to our business, had to figure out really quickly how we could facilitate the continued engagement and connection between our talent and all our fans out there, which we've tried to do the best possible way. And out of that has come, it's brought some really interesting new opportunities. Some of them, which I feel will live on, way beyond the COVID-19 pandemic.
Cool, thanks, Tommas. And I think that, that's super great to me that you're involved as well, Tommas, because I think it's good that we get, the perspective of a manager, and obviously your background. You used to be an artist as well, and the major label side and the independent record side and all that. So it's good. I think we have some good, some great perspectives here. And then I didn't introduce myself. I'm Mike. I'm from, I work at Paradigm. I'm an agent over there as well. So I'm on the live side. So I guess we should start probably with some examples. I think the main thing for me is that, at first it felt like we were all kind of obviously in quite a negative space, and then bit by bit people started trying things. And there's been in a way, probably, I don't know if you guys agree, but there's been maybe too much in terms of whether it's streams or people doing all kinds of things. And a lot of things in some ways to me don't make very much sense. It's kind of like people just trying things to try them. So I think, the main thing that I wanted to discuss first is probably highlight some of the really cool things that we've seen. One of the ones I love personally was the Post Malone and Nirvana stream, because I felt like, that felt like something that was not forced. It's something that's raised a ton of money. And I think it was very on brand, right? And I think that's another thing that I want to put to you guys is kind of, what is there one size fits all for everyone, or is it kind of like you have to really understand your audience and figure out what to do next? So first of all, what are some examples of things that you guys have seen that you like?
I think if I can jump in. You mentioned the volume and the passion and energy that came out the gate so quickly, and the volume was absolutely mad. But with it came a lot of noise and not very good quality shows. And straight away we're thinking, oh God, this has got to get better. But as the confidence has grown, and as artists, managers, agents are feeling more empowered and seeing the longer term strategic opportunities, the quality's picked up. And for us, we've kind of recognize this formula that you've got to have the hook that is the narrative of why you're doing that show, make sure that the quality is fantastic, and then you're basically giving fantastic value to the fan. So for us, the hook could be an album release, an anniversary, so many different things. And then the quality could be taking it from home into a venue, which a lot of artists are starting to do, like Laura Marling. And for us, that's where the charging space gets really interesting. Lewis is a great example. Lewis Capaldi, we did his show exclusively a couple of weeks ago, And the production, the sound quality was fantastic. He did his acoustic set of his first album on the anniversary for the first time in full. And it actually felt like being at a night out. It was amazing. We had Twitter going mad, people taking photos of themselves kind of hugging their TVs, saying that was the best £5 I've ever spent. So, you know, these streams really have the opportunity to not replace live events, but absolutely to enhance them onto a global platform. And then the other one that we are just amazed by as well is Laura Marling. She's doing an acoustic set in Union Chapel in London. High production. ATC have been very clever with marketing the show and being very open about how much production has gone into the value of the show, which has meant that fans have really understood what they're buying into. And with Laura's show, over a third of fans have actually opted to increase the donate. So they pay the base price, and then they've also opted to increase to cover charity donation. And with that show, we were able to geo-target all of her US fans, and then we're doing a separate show for the UK and Europe as well, which is great. So it's all really positive trends, but it is the quality of the hook which equals the value that we're kind of championing the most.
And Amy, while I have you, I mean, for people that don't know, because I also don't know how, like, which territories do you guys reach as DICE, and also what's the difference? Is there a difference between just DICE and DICE TV?
Yep, it's a really good question. So when we started streaming, we were selling tickets in 6 countries, and we are now selling in over 113. I think it may have gone up since yesterday. You know, we can sell tickets all over the world. It's agnostic, which is fantastic. And the difference between DICE TV and DICE is that DICE TV is an opportunity to tell people that streaming is what we're doing, but there will be a future where DICE exists as a hybrid, where we have live shows and streams all within the same platform, which is how it is now. If you go into DICE, you'll see that we have a DICE TV rail, but we're working behind the scenes so that quickly people can identify which one's a stream and which one is a show. But the other thing is, you know, you'll have live shows happening in London that we can market then to the US or to Chile or, you know, to Asia. So that's where we see the economics bringing in streaming to support local shows on a global scale. Got it. Okay. And Ben, what about on your side with MelodyVR? I mean, what's some stuff that either you guys have done or some stuff that you've seen that's been quite good?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with the second part of it. Obviously, what Travis Scott and Fortnite did was, I think, the most impressive thing so far, at least over the last couple of months. I mean, 30 million live viewers is a ridiculous number. And I think it's really a testament to the idea that video games are the new social networks, really. You know, people are going into them to hang out, not just to play games against one another. And so, I think that was a huge event. As far as us, you know, it was an interesting situation. We had a number of concerts and festivals that we were going to capture and stream over the year. And with everyone else in the music industry, that was all turned upside down by the pandemic. But what we found was at the same time, touring was put on hold indefinitely. People were calling us and saying, "Oh, you guys are a virtual reality music company. Are you doing anything?" And so we quickly put our heads together, and the goal was to find a way to bring the best of what was currently happening, which were mostly Instagram and Twitch live streams from artists' kitchens, to, you know, like the high production value and, you know, the high quality you get from actually being at a show. And so what we landed on was we found this great studio near LAX in Los Angeles, and we built a system and a number of protocols that allow artists to actually come in, perform in this great space, full performances, high production value, and actually leave while still remaining safe and isolated, adhering to all the restrictions that the mayor and the governor had in place. And so we kicked that off a couple of weeks ago with a live performance by John Legend, which was really exciting for us. And we've been rolling out a number of performances every week since then. And we're just going to keep going as long as this continues. And I think it's important to note that, you know, there's a new normal now. We've gotten past the initial sort of shock phase of this. And now we're trying to figure out, okay, well, what does this new normal look like if it lasts another 6 or 12 months? And it's not only about creating these really great, intimate experiences for the fans at home that can't go to live shows, but how do you actually create something that's commercially viable as well, so we can help the industry where, you know, half of the revenues for the entire industry typically come from touring. So I think there's a number of exciting things happening, everything from computer generated to live action, which is what we specialize in, and everything in between.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know as well that I think this is not about just the next 6 to 12 months, is it? It's kind of like beyond that, and I think people need to get their heads around that this can actually, you know, enhance our business in a big way, you know, and we need to just figure out the best ways of using it. So going back to the video game part, Sheri, do you want to maybe give us some examples or something maybe that you guys have done on your side?
Yeah, sure. Well, off our platform, I have enjoyed the Instagram Verses.
Oh yeah, that's great.
I think, yeah, they've done a great job with getting personal with the connection between artists and fans, which I love, and kind of letting the fan dictate what's happening. And that does tie back to Sansar and sort of our core belief that ultimately virtual events will be more deeply engaging and personal than any kind of live event that's going on. But to your point, Mike, it's additive. It's not gonna ever replace the live performance. And then on Sansar, so I don't think I can talk about it yet. We're making a big announcement today, but
you'll make it here if you want.
I know, right? I'm gonna tell you guys. It's a very storied UK festival that is coming on to Sansar the week of July 4th, that weekend. We're gonna do 48 hours, 50 artists. It's gonna be big, so we're very excited about that. And the thing about Sansar is, unlike some of the games, which they're doing great stuff. I really love what Fortnite and Roblox and all those guys are doing. I think that's not going to go away, but we're very different in the sense of we're not a game, we're a venue, we're a platform with the ability for artists, labels, etc., to create their own venues in the style that they want, with the brand sort of feel and vibe. So that's one big thing about this upcoming festival. It has a very specific vibe that they've been happy to recreate in Sansar.
And how does that work exactly? I mean, is it, you know, if I'm a label or a manager or an agent or something like that, or a promoter, does someone approach you and then you guys build it out?
Exactly. So we've been, as you can imagine, like inundated with just inbound people wanting to throw concerts. We've spent the last, 5 years putting into place revenue levers so that Sansar is a place to make money. So there's multi-tiered ticketing, there's merchandise, there's a marketplace, there's tipping. Sort of everything you can think of from a live venue is now virtually recreated in Sansar. So we see ourselves, unlike, again, Fortnite, where when you perform there, you're going to get whatever 20 million fans there because they're a fan of the game. But Sansar, we see ourselves as the venue, not the promoter. So we're basically letting any artist come in, bring their fans for a performance, like a sort of a created, tailored performance inside a venue that's sort of agnostic. So, and it could live on forever. So, everyone from labels, we're talking to having like a pavilion for the label that every time, a song comes out, it's used, they do a little performance, they premiere songs, etc., to somebody who wants to not travel so much anymore and just do virtual concerts. So it's such an exciting space. I mean, I wake up every morning like, what are we going to innovate today? Who are we going to talk to that wants to do something different? So it's an exciting place to be.
No, and it's super exciting. It's just I'll be honest, I'm still quite confused on that side of things. Like, I'm not personally like a huge gamer, but I find it fascinating, and I think it's super important we get our head around it.
Yeah, exactly.
Prajit, how about you?
Yeah, at Looped, we've kind of focused on video virtual experiences outside of just the live stream. Even though live streams are obviously great and people have been doing really exciting things, and we do live stream concerts as well. The thing that we launched first last year was our virtual meet and greet. And basically what that is it's a product that allows talent to queue up fans inside of this virtual venue, and by pressing one button, they can kind of cycle through timed one-on-one video chats with each person. So we've seen, a lot of, before the pandemic, people using it in creative marketing campaigns, or just using it as a way to connect with their fans every week, or attaching it to actual physical tours as a way to sell more meet and greets. But since the pandemic hit, we've done a whole lot of virtual meet and greets just on their own, just as a way for people to connect with fans or make some extra money, but also kind of tying it into live streams as kind of a VIP upsell. And so we, on Looped, people can sell GA tickets to give access to a live stream, and VIP tickets to give access to a live stream and a virtual meet and greet before after the show. We also have people using our virtual meet and greets with all other types of live streaming platforms. For example, Meghan Trainor did a virtual tour with Billboard Live and Instagram Live and Facebook Live and YouTube Live, and did all the lives basically. And then afterwards, after each one, did kind of a 30-fan virtual meet and greet, with on Looped. And so those are the types of things we're seeing. We generally see when people are selling GA and VIP tickets, the VIP tickets, similar to a live show, kind of account for 5% to maybe 40% of the actual bulk of tickets, but anywhere from 25 to 80% of revenue. So it's a really powerful tool for people to connect with their fans, but also to use as a revenue driver, and a way to kind of give a differentiated VIP experience to those super fans.
Yeah, and I think that is the I feel is the unspoken thing for many people is it's kind of like trying to figure out how we're going to make money. And that's a big thing. So I definitely want to address that. And Tommas, moving to you, you should definitely tell us about obviously everything you've done with Yungblud. I think it's amazing. But also moving into how you are generating a bit of money now as well.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think that our immediate, in terms of Yungblud, our immediate reaction to having to cancel shows. Came from he's he's got such a dedicated and amazing relationship with his fans. He wanted to connect with them. So the first thing that was an idea he came up with that me and my team ran with, which was to create the Yungblud show. We wanted to do it sort of as high quality as we could. It was just before the lockdown, so we managed to get a camera crew and a space in Los Angeles, and we had some guests coming on, MGK, Bella Thorne, and a bunch of other people, and it was a really brilliant experience for all of us. And hang on, we can actually still connect with people. Engagement was great and all of that. So we decided to repeat that, and we're now just about to launch. We're going to do the third episode is coming first week of June, and we're just going to keep going. In order to sort of pivot financially, that we didn't think about that. It all came from the wanting to connect with his core fan base, and that is a real problem, that you don't get the energy and you don't get the excitement of being out there. We were supposed to be doing 5 sold out Kentish Town Forums this week in London, and we would have just come off a sold out US tour. So the energy of that, how do you sort of maintain that connection? And it comes from the bond between the artist and the fans first. It's always about that first, and then obviously as we realized that hang on, we created something that is engaging, and we were doing collabs. Second one, he was doing he did a duet with Machine Gun Kelly and 24K Golden. They did a thing, and then we start building in skits with brands that we have relationships with in a very organic, below the line kind of way. just to sort of test what is it that we can do that's authentic and doesn't at any point become desperate in order to make money. And then also, how do we work with brands in this new world? How much are they willing to take chances and trust us to deliver something that works for them, that also works for the artist, etc., etc. So the Yungblud show is something I'm really proud of. And another thing that we've done is we've done a YouTube original four episode series called Stay Home with Yungblud, which has been amazing as well, which is more like based around, being in quarantine in an Airbnb in Los Angeles with his day-to-day, his videographer, thankfully, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do any of this, and his band. And it's been brilliant, a lot of fun, and out of it, at least two really interesting new concepts have emerged that we didn't even realize existed, 8 weeks ago. And at the core of those concepts are obviously connecting with the fact and growing his core fan base, which is what people like me spend most of our days thinking about. How do we do that? So it's been great, and I'm really proud of what's been created, and excited to see how far we can take it in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really important aspect of this whole thing as well, isn't it, Tommas? I think that the mentality that you have is a mentality that I would hope that most of us should have. Do you see what I mean? In terms of you guys, it feels like you guys just tried to do some of this stuff without knowing exactly what would happen next, and it's resulted in something where you're now generating money, and now it feels like you have a much clearer idea of what it is and where to go, right?
It's about it's just innovation, being innovative. Right. And I think we all in the music business for that particular reason, it's a business that we have to innovate. With that comes taking risk, and as it happened, we were all being forced to take risks. Without risk, there's no innovation, and without no innovation, there's no progress. And I just think what's always been very important to me and my team is that it's always about the music before the business, and that's how you generate probably even more business. And it comes with being curious to try things out. And I think what I've found within this whole period is that we've come together as a business across all of the various different silos that we normally operate inside of tech, promoter, agent, label, publisher, whatever, and have really rallied together. And I think that's it made me feel really sort of proud to be part of this industry for once, because we're very good in a crisis. We sort of all, which is why we're doing amazing stuff, and I think we're going to be in a great place once this is behind us, with added new ways of utilizing technology that may have been around for a long time, but we just haven't focused on. I mean, for sure. Certainly that goes for myself, is that, things that have been around for years, as someone that is incredibly hyper-focused on content creation and creativity, that is, a lot of these opportunities that sort of passed us by, and we're all of a sudden we're discovering all this, like you guys represent some of those, and that is so exciting, way beyond the pandemic, and back into pivoting and keep breaking down barriers and create exciting experiences for fans.
For sure. And so if I can move on to some of the other guys real quick, I mean, I'm conscious of one, time, and two, I just want to give everyone as much value as possible. So Ben, if I can chat to you quickly just about, MelodyVR, for example, let's say, so I'm an agent or I'm a promoter, I have an event. What is the best way of using MelodyVR and trying to generate some money? And the other thing is, I know you guys are obviously doing the whole the wireless connect thing, the wireless festival, digital version of that, and that sounds really exciting as well. But I think that's all a free thing, isn't it? So how does it? Is there a way for it to move into kind of paid things, or what's your vibe on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough. I mean, right now, we're dealing with two things. One is, like I said earlier, trying to make something that's commercially viable from home. But
Right.
on the other hand, we have to be sensitive to the current economic situation where people are losing their jobs at ridiculous rates.
Yeah.
They're not really looking to spend money right now. What we found with most of the artists we're talking to for the LA series is that they actually would prefer to premiere the content for free initially to their fans as a gesture, as a way to give them something exciting to keep them engaged, possibly to promote an EP or some new music. But obviously, in the long term, it's important that we figure out a way to help everybody make money. I think that what the pandemic is doing is actually accelerating some changes that were already happening. I think people were already becoming more and more comfortable with spending money on paywalled live streams, paywalled live music experiences, whether that would be through tipping or what we would call virtual ticketing. I think as the next couple of months, go by and we figure out where we land globally, economically, I think we'll find, because there actually is no option of going to a real show, there's going to be a really big appetite to spend more money than ever before on live streams from home. In terms of what we're doing with wireless, yes, it's free, but I think it's also interesting how, there have been a lot of charity performances and a lot of living room and kitchen performances, like I talked about. Wireless, it appears to be the first actual or typically normal festival that has transitioned to a virtual version of it, at least during this time. And that helps them maintain their brand and make sure that fans come back next year when they can actually attend in purpose. So there's a deeper value in it as well. And in terms of what we're doing with them, it's, we're going to be recording some new content, both in our LA studio, also at a venue in London. And we're also going to bring back some of the content that we captured in person last year and make an event over it July 3rd to 5th over the course of a weekend. So you can really feel like you're attending a real virtual festival, or at least the closest thing you can get to being at a real festival when you can't actually go to one. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure. And I was wondering as well from you, like, this is a question on my side, which maybe some other people have, because I've had these comments before in terms of MelodyVR, is just, do people need the headset? Is that like a really key component? And is that realistic that people would all have that?
So I think in the long term, the answer is yes. As the headsets get smaller and lighter, as I'm sure most of there have been rumors swirling about Apple, putting out their own headset. So we're obviously looking forward to that. That being said, it's very clear that there are billions of people with smartphones, and there are tens of millions with VR headsets. And so that's why we launched a version of our platform on iOS and Android last year. So fans that don't have VR headsets, which at this point is the majority of fans, can still experience our shows in 360. We have the ability to let fans actually jump between what we call jump spots, so you can watch the show from multiple points of view. And if you happen to have a full-on VR headset or a mobile viewer, you could slot the camera in, the phone into there, and you can have a VR experience with it. So it's about reaching everybody. If you happen to be a fan of VR, it's definitely the coolest way to do it. But I think what we've created with smartphones is becoming better and better, especially because you can cast it to a TV now and make it more of a social experience.
Yeah.
So.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing to know, which we all know, but we need to remember, is that all you tech platforms move at a very quick pace. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of changes, and you're going to adapt to all that. So, Sheri, what is the best way that we could use it? Again, if I was speaking as an agent, as a promoter, or a venue, you're talking about a festival that you're about to work with. What's the best way to start to create some revenue?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, we sort of built our platform that way. So whether it's ticketing, virtual merchandise, tipping, as you guys have seen with Twitch, tipping is a very big revenue stream for streamers, and we see it in the future the same way for musicians. We haven't really talked about sponsorships too much. That's one area that we're focused on, and I'm talking to a lot of brands for us, an example might be we have a partnership with Monster Cat, and Pioneer DJ is one of their sponsors, and we brought in a very large version that people could jump up and down on and play with of one of their DJ decks. And we found that the deep kind of experience of doing things like you'd press a button and oranges would fall out of the sky, a giant inflatable shark would pop up, you could blow bubbles, fog can happen. So it's a different kind of sponsorship experience versus having an arena with a sign in the back, which we can also do. But there's a whole new world there in terms of monetization. And I know a lot of artists have sponsors that they want to work with and do things with and have it feel organic. So that's another part of our platform that we're working on.
And can I? So this is a question more to everyone. I mean, on the tech side, do you think, like, are you guys all talking to each other in some respect, or is everyone for themselves? Do you see what I mean? Like, is it, because I feel like, for example, you know, when I'm looking at Prajit and Looped, you know, that could work quite well with Dice. You know, like. Is there a conversation there?
We, yes, we are actually having a conversation, which is lovely. But yeah, we're agnostic. So the great thing about Dice is that we can kind of, whichever platform the artist picks, depending, you know, some artists want to go for Twitch, others stick with YouTube. You know, we can work with all platforms. But I just wanted to go back a step, because one of the really interesting things is we're all talking very openly and passionately about monetizing and the mechanics for monetizing. But I think one thing that we just haven't really nailed is giving artists and agents and managers the confidence and the data to prove that fans are paying for it, they're not ripping them off, and to get that value piece back into what they're doing. Just because they're doing it on a stream doesn't mean they shouldn't be charging. And I think as an industry, we can be supporting that way more. We were having a laugh in the office yesterday about, you know, all the cinemas are shut, but you don't see the movie studios just kind of dropping their films online going, pay what you fancy. It's, you know, it's a very kind of well thought out distribution model. So that's something we're desperately trying to champion. And you know, the conversations get very personal around even the pricing points. So that's how we're really working with artists as well, to make sure they feel comfortable and confident.
Yeah, I mean that's a really important topic, and that's I think it's hard. It's kind of like the issue is trying to get the messaging right, especially in this time, right? Like Ben said, everyone's losing their jobs, and there's a global economic crisis and all that going on. So you know, you want to be sensitive about saying, you know, especially me, when I think as an agent, I just think I don't want to be the one to, you know, to try and push that out. But I completely agree with what you're saying. And I think we're at the beginning of something which is similar to, you know, when people used to download music illegally and just get it for free. And then streaming happened, and then you had to pay for like a membership and blah, blah, blah. Like this is similar. Like we've all, you know, I've grown up watching videos on YouTube and stuff for free forever. Like, but it's a process. It's a process. So I completely agree.
Yeah.
I think there's something to say, which I think we've all touched on, which is offering a version that's free and a version that maybe is more of like a VIP idea, so that especially today, everyone can experience it. But if you want the meet and greet, or if you want access to a special area, or et cetera, if you want superpowers, you know, then you pay for that, which I think is great.
So I mean, I guess, what do you guys think? Is it just a question of us, you know, when I say us, I say again, like agents and festivals and promoters being more thoughtful in terms of the stuff that we push out and charge for, and then the other stuff can just be for free? So like you said, Sheri, there's two options. Is that the best way forward?
I think it's from our perspective, I think it's about knowing your fans. That is, you know, of course, music has value, and those experiences have you know, a lot of value, emotional value, and that, you know, I think that you know, it's just about kind of knowing your there's no one size fits all. I don't think there is. I think it's all about knowing your fan base, knowing your audience, figuring out, and also I think being mindful, like it's been mentioned a couple of times, that, you know, kids are going to go back out and going to be skinned, and they're going to be you know, there's a lack of you know, and we have to think about the bigger picture rather than making up for lost cash in the year. That seemed to be a pause for many of our businesses. But I think knowing your audience has always been key in this business, and I think that will help us. That will help guide us to the right price point and the right sort of pricing model. Because of course we should, there's value there and it should be charged for.
Yeah. And I think for us, we've always. The most important thing for us to show agents, managers, labels, anyone we're working with is that the fans, whether they paid for it or not, are having an amazing experience. And the more you can show that, the more positive reactions you get on socials, the more, fans are talking about it and writing in that, it was the best experience ever. The more confidence it gives everyone else to be able to eventually charge for it because they know what they're charging for is a high quality product. So I think that's always been really important to us, and really showing them, going back to them and saying, here's what the reaction was, here's why it was so great, and here's why you should be doing it more and potentially charging for it as well.
So can I say one more thing? I also think it's really important that it's explicit that there is a charge, even if it's really low, because this industry has been suffering from other businesses, taking away revenue from creative people for a generation or so, and I think again, I just think it's really important that it isn't just hidden. That people are used to the transaction in order to get that experience that they obviously are willing and really want to pay for experience.
I mean, I think it's also important to note that even most of the more expensive paywalled streaming performances and online music experiences are just a fraction of the cost of the best seat in the house at an actual show, which is an advantage to this as well, especially when there's no actual shows going on.
Yeah.
So I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to look at some of these comments and questions. So Nicholas has asked, what is the appetite for sponsorships and partnerships within the virtual music space, which I think is pretty interesting. What do you guys think? Sheri, how does it work on your side?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to it briefly. I think to their credit, they are interested in innovation and they are interested in what's happening, and they need to try things and they have budgets to try things. So I think that there's a very positive outlook with sponsorships.
Yeah.
Again, you have to be careful about what it is exactly and make sure that it's an organic, fun experience that the artist is comfortable with. But I do think, unlike maybe some other parts of the music industry, that they're okay with risk, at least some of them, and they're really trying to figure out what's going on in the space. So I have a very positive outlook in that area.
And have you guys seen a rise in requests from brands wanting to get involved with you guys on the tech side during this time?
We have personally, very much so.
Yeah, us too. I think especially in the last month, we've done a few different branded events. For example, we did a branded virtual prom where it was kind of a mix of a Q&A and a concert, and then we did virtual meet and greets with the kings and queens, of the prom afterwards. Wow. And the entire experience was branded. Brand logos, brand sponsorships. The way to enter was through brand contesting. So we definitely have seen a big uptick in brands interested, and them coming up with creative ideas to use the technology to really make it unique and interesting for their customers.
And is there? I think you guys do that, and maybe Dice as well, et cetera. But do you guys think there's growth there, and like there's a business model there in terms of brands essentially paying for the live stream?
Yeah, definitely, because content is so important to brands. So this is a fantastic opportunity for them to kind of be guardians of it. The Lewis stream is a great example. The teamwork with the Less, and I mean, I've never known fans be so passionate about getting a Less t-shirt, but that was another great hook and just drove great excitement for the sign up. So there are lots of ways they can get involved. I think the brands industry and sponsorship, of course, has just gone through a bit of a shock, but they're definitely coming back out the woodwork. But the past couple of months have been the braver ones coming out the gates, which has been interesting for creativity.
Yeah, because I think the model could be really interesting, right? If it was, obviously you want to get people used to paying for gigs, but also if brands can cover some of that as well.
Yeah, but the one thing I'm always passionate about us avoiding, my background is actually in partnerships, is sometimes you can oversaturate an artist by doing too many partnerships. So if you can create a sustainable model through ticketing, that for us is the holy grail, and anything additional is kind of fantastic. But I don't think we should look to brands to drive the creativity and the content of these shows, because you then start getting into a very kind of dodgy territory with fans. But they can absolutely enhance it, and the production and everything. There's huge value to working with partners. Yeah, it'd be better to have a sustainable model on its own.
Got it. And Amy, sorry, while I have you, Caroline has asked a question about your influence on ticket pricing, and how do you go about pricing tickets for live streams at Dice?
We use a combination of gut feel and data and historical sales, and much like Tommas was saying, understand the audience of that artist. Lewis was £5, but for us the sweet spot is around the £10 mark at the moment, and then obviously the VIP tiers on top of that. But our highest paid for shows are selling the most tickets, which is fascinating. And for us, the interesting part will be how we cross that hybrid with venues opening. You have your live tickets, you then have your stream tickets, and then of course the tiers on top of that. So we work very collaboratively with partners to make sure that A, they're feeling comfortable, and B, that we're really looking at the data that's come to date to kind of make sure that we're heading the right direction.
Got it. Okay. And then I was going to ask Tommas. What was I going to ask? Hold on. Just so there's one point that I feel quite strongly about, which I don't actually have the answer to, and I'm wondering if anyone has, and I think maybe Tommas, you might have some ideas, but is more just about new artists, because I think a lot of the stuff, Amy with Lewis Capaldi, obviously he's of a certain size, and then you see the Travis Scotts, like these are all quite big, high profile artists. So my thing has been like, how do I do something useful with my new artists? There's so many things out there that are kind of like, let me just get so and so to play a couple songs from their bedroom, and it's just going to be put out, and it is what it is. Is there a smart strategy moving forward on a new artist in this time? What do you think, Thomas?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Amy. Go ahead, Amy.
Sorry, bursting in there. I was just going to say the amazing thing is artists don't have to travel, so you can get these collaborations across the globe and have a headline artist featuring, a support slot, and you can do it virtually, which is amazing. So we've got a couple of those coming up, and I'm so sorry for interrupting. I'm going to be quiet now.
No, anyone is free to jump in. I just thought
we're actually planning. We're mapping out a virtual world tour, and we're going to have local supports. One of the conversations is to bring in local supports. I think that in general, there's always the, how you break through as a new artist. That's a very, that's always been difficult, and it's not. I don't even think it's any more or less difficult at the moment. It's just always been for me about quality and resilience to because it's hard. And I don't know if there's any shortcuts. I always just advise people to be authentic and brilliant as a starting point, and then get a great manager.
Yeah, to add to that, I think, the music industry can learn from the video industry, the media industry, the greater entertainment industry, as if you look at, well, how did YouTube stars get big, or how did Twitch streamers grow? And the answer, at least in my view, is hard work and lots of exposure. And if you're good and you get out there and you're seen, you will eventually grow. So I think people should not be precious about performances, getting themselves out there. in as many forms as possible across as many platforms as possible, because you never know where there's going to be a big spike of interest. And even today, now that we're not traveling, if you're willing to work hard, that strategy might work for you.
That's a very good point there. Sorry for interrupting. Actually, which is, you know, when I started out in the music industry, all of the development was done in behind closed doors, and I think artists are now developing in the light, as they are growing their engagement and figure themselves out, and you know, and I think that I think putting out content consistently and not let it sit there and gather dust on a hard drive or whatever is really important. You know, you have to be really fearless, and it's okay that you're not the fully formed version of yourself as an artist before you reveal your art to the world. I think it's really important just to put out content. It's like you're looking at it from a you know, any artist is like a startup or an entrepreneur. You know, you have to have some reality thrown back at you before, and to help you navigate. So get the music out.
Yeah, I think also, you know, part of why we created this virtual meet and greet in the first place is once you put out that brilliant content and you have some people who care, you have to focus on those people, right? And really focus on those super fans and make sure that they don't get bored and leave. And for me, when I used to be a talent manager, kind of my thing that I would always see at shows was that whenever my artist would meet a fan, even if it was for 5 seconds, right, or 10 seconds before after a show, that fan was coming to the next show. That fan was streaming the album. That fan was buying the shirt. Every time that artist would come up in conversation, you know, they were talking about that fan and that one time they met them once at the show. And so kind of being able to give them something like that, some type of personal experience, kind of the ultimate thing, which is your time, you know, especially for developing artists. We work with all sorts of artists, but for the developing artists, if they have 30 fans out there or 50 fans out there who care enough to want to talk to them, it's a really powerful thing to actually be able to keep those people and make sure they're not getting drowned in the sea of, you know, social media and live streaming that's out there.
I mean, you have to make people your super fans, right? That's the idea, is trying to really tap in and make people, you know, get to a point that they're so crazy about you that they're going to tell 10 other people, right? And that's the, I guess that's the idea. So that makes a lot of sense. Another question here from Marina, talking about production value. How do you ensure production values when artists are playing from home? I'm sure we're all, you know, bored at this point of seeing everyone's bedrooms, right?
I could touch on that for a sec, if that's all right. I mean, that was really the basis of this whole studio series that we kicked off. You know, I think that in the very beginning, these bedroom and kitchen performances played an important role. You felt a sense of intimacy with musicians, and there was a rawness to an acoustic performance, literally from their home. But I think as time has gone on, people have craved something that looks and sounds great, or like the next best thing to a real show. And so with what we're doing, at least, you know, we've invested a lot in making sure that these shows look and feel fantastic. We actually work directly with the artists and their team to incorporate elements of what they're actually using on tour. And that's really what we're trying to offer them is, okay, you can't go to a show right now, but you can come in here and you can do pretty much the exact same thing. And not only that, but fans that are watching it can look all the way around them and pick which point of view they're looking at it from, which again is the next best thing to actually being on stage or being in the front row at a real show. So I think that production value has been crucial to us in making sure that these shows look and sound fantastic.
Yeah, we have the same philosophy, and I think you've seen more people green screening themselves, which is really interesting. Even in a simple way, and just putting in a background. For us, we green screen our artists and then put them in a 3D world. But for people that are just streaming themselves in 2D, they've also gotten a little bit more creative than just here's my kitchen behind me.
It's also about the artist getting out of their, the actual performance itself. Is that, to get out of this sort of bedroom mood and really perform, understanding there is an audience there, even though you're just essentially looking at a screen. We did something Ready One Big Weekend last weekend, and you allowed enough people in the same household together, which in this particular case includes a band, that we could put on a proper full band set, but it meant nothing without the actual performance, which was kick-ass and really energetic. And I think that's really important, is actually the performance itself. Then the audience will forget about the surroundings, whether it's in a bedroom or in a living room, whatever, because they'll be captivated or captured. And that's the essence of the art form, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Anyone, Ben, did you want to add something? Sorry.
I was just going to say maybe something somewhat unrelated that came to mind, which I've been thinking about recently, which is, there are all these new challenges that came with the current situation, but imagine if this happened 20, 30, 40 years ago. It would have been catastrophic, not only for every industry, but especially for the music industry. I mean, there would be no solutions whatsoever. And so in a weird kind of twisted way, we're lucky that this happened in 2020, where we have all these amazing platforms that all of us are working on that can not only bring high quality live music experiences to fans, but also give artists the opportunity to monetize them, to continue to make a living when the 75% of their income comes from live shows has vanished into thin air. So I think there's a silver lining to all of this, and I think there's a lot that can be done to help artists, and maybe even help artists make even more money than they would have made otherwise, because you can reach millions of people. You're not just limited to the number of seats in a given venue. You could reach millions of people around the world, and they could spend less money than they would spend on a ticket, and you do the math, it could end up being much better for them. So just wanted to throw that in there.
No, you're right. I mean, it's completely a silver lining, and I think I think that's just what I try to encourage, just generally, is just like, we have to look at some of the silver linings. I know it's a hard situation for everyone, we're all going through it, but it's amazing that we have all you guys here to talk about some actual solutions, and ways that hopefully, God forbid this ever happened again, but if it did, that there'd be something that we could work with and kind of keep it moving until that time, and without. This has been like such a kind of a time of adjustment, hasn't it? And we're still trying to figure out a lot of things and learn a lot about it. I'll do one more question before we end. So Rocky has asked, do you think we'll see more environmentally friendly tours when live music comes back? So before this panel started, we had a little chat. We were talking, and Tommas, what you were saying about, you're happy you're not traveling as much, and so on and so forth. And I think a lot of us feel that as well. I mean, it's what do you guys think in terms of that? Like, do you think is it going to affect touring in a negative way, or is it just a good thing that in terms of smaller things like meetings, we're just going to maybe take a step back and use technology? Who wants to go?
I mean,
I can't get my artists into a 10,000 cap venue as soon as possible. Maybe.
We're seeing the demand already for mapping out these virtual tours globally well into 2021. So touring will come back, but I think the pressure to be trotting around the globe left, right, and centre, and also the narrative of how much good this has done to the environment is going to stick around. So I think sustainability in terms of environmental narrative will stick around as well. So this tech can help all artists contribute to that. So we're excited for that.
Yeah, and I think, go ahead.
Sure, go ahead. No, please.
I was just going to say, I think we should look at it in terms of options. We've just created a lot more options for artists, and let them pick. Let them decide if they want to go full bore back, or if they want to split it, or if they're just additive on top of each other. So I think that's the way that I see it.
I was going to say, there are some great companies out there that are consulting with major artists about making their tours more green, or when there were tours. Yeah. One of them is Reverb. I know they're doing a lot of cool stuff with everyone from Billie Eilish to Maroon 5, using sustainable materials with merch, and limiting the impact on the environment when they have all these huge trucks kind of lugging around lots of equipment. And I think that will accelerate in popularity for sure. as we do ease back into actual shows. And I think it's great. It's great for
it's already it's been a massive talk. You know, it's even without the current situation. That's obviously something that is a hugely important part of putting a tour together these days. And if that is only elevated after this, that's fantastic. It will be, you know, certainly on our end. But I think one of you said it's a matter of choice. You know, I think it's great. There's more choice. There's more ways of connecting with fans. You know, we still, you know, I still think that artists and their fans crave that human, real, like interaction in the physical and all of that. But then there's all of these other choices and ways to connect. So the future is absolutely very bright.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, you know, that's a great way to end this panel. I mean, it is a big silver lining. And I think, Sheri, what you said for sure is true. Like it's a matter of choice. And I don't think that one size fits all. It's going to be, you know, there's so much more progress that I'm sure is going to be made by all you guys very soon. And I'm personally really excited about it. I mean, I think it's just, we just need to get used to it. And I think, Amy, what you said about getting people used to, you know, paying for streams and all that, like we all agree. I think that's super key, and that, you know, we have to all push that message together. Cool. So thanks everyone for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I would say that I wanted to say sorry because it's this. I feel like this topic is so wide. We could probably talk about this way more in depth, and I feel like I'm getting everyone to say something very quickly. So we'll try and work out what we can do next. But I'll speak to Greg as well, and we'll put out some content and make sure we share everybody's information and anything you want to share.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks, everybody.
Great to be part.
Thanks,
guys.